As we continue in the book of Daniel, we move from the somber reminder of God's judgment on Judah in verses 1 and 2 to the subsequent verses that introduce us to the main characters of this remarkable narrative. In verses 1 and 2, we saw the Lord giving Jehoiakim into the hands of Nebuchadnezzar, along with the sacred articles from the temple, signifying a profound judgment and the beginning of a period of captivity. This sets the stage for the lives of those who will stand as beacons of faithfulness in a pagan land. Daniel chapter 1 verses 3 through 7 states, "Then the king instructed Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs, to bring some of the children of Israel, and some of the king's descendants, and some of the nobles, young men in whom there was no blemish, but good-looking, gifted in all wisdom, possessing knowledge and quick to understand, who had ability to serve in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the language and literature of the Chaldeans. And the king appointed for them a daily provision of the king's delicacies, and of the wine which he drank, and 3 years of training for them, so that at the end of that time they might serve before the king. Now from among those of the sons of Judah were Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. To them the chief of the eunuchs gave names. He gave Daniel the name Belteshazzar, to Hananiah, Shadrach, to Mishael, Meshach, and to Azariah, Abednego. The strategy of Nebuchadnezzar was not only to conquer territories, but also to assimilate the best and brightest of the conquered peoples into his own culture. By doing so, he sought to weaken their national identity and loyalty, molding them into loyal subjects of Babylon. These young men from Judah, including Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, were chosen for their exceptional qualities. They were of noble birth, physically flawless, intellectually gifted, and quick to learn. Nebuchadnezzar's plan was to indoctrinate these youths into Babylonian culture and religion, effectively erasing their heritage and identity. This is evident in the change of their names. Daniel, which means God is my judge, was changed to Belteshazzar, which means Bel, protect the king. Hananiah, meaning Yahweh is gracious, became Shadrach, possibly derived from command of Aku, the moon god. Mishael, meaning who is like God, was changed to Meshach, likely meaning who is what Aku is. Azariah, meaning Yahweh has helped, became Abednego, meaning servant of Nebo, a Babylonian deity. This renaming was an attempt to strip these young men of their identity and heritage, to make them forget their God and their people. But what Nebuchadnezzar did not understand was that these young men, despite being in a foreign land, held steadfast to their faith and identity in the true God of Israel. The daily provision of the king's delicacies and wine was another tactic to seduce these young men into Babylonian culture. Eating the king's food and drinking his wine symbolized acceptance and participation in the king's lifestyle, and by extension, his gods. But as we will see, Daniel and his friends purposed in their hearts not to defile themselves with the king's food, choosing instead to honor God even in the small details of their diet. This brings us to a crucial point in our understanding of the book of Daniel. The world we live in is constantly trying to conform us to its image, to change our identity, and to make us forget who we are in Christ. Romans chapter 12 verse 2 warns us, "And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God." Daniel and his friends serve as powerful examples of how to stand firm in our faith, refusing to be conformed to the world around us. They did not succumb to the pressures of their captors, nor did they allow their circumstances to dictate their faithfulness to God. Instead, they resolved to remain true to their God-given identity, even if it meant facing opposition and potential death. As we delve deeper into the book of Daniel, let us be inspired by the unwavering faith and courage of these young men. They remind us that our identity is rooted in God, and no matter the pressures and temptations we face, we must remain steadfast in our commitment to Him. The world may try to change our names and redefine who we are, but like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, we must hold fast to the truth of who God has called us to be. Our faithfulness in the small things, our refusal to be defiled by the world, and our unwavering commitment to God will not only sustain us, but also serve as a powerful testimony of God's sovereignty and grace in a fallen world.